Well, great. We're continuing this series, The Fruit of Walking with Jesus. And the idea with the whole series is that you can see your life change. Life can be different. As we spend days, turns into weeks, and we spend our lives walking with Jesus, He's the one who can change us from the inside out. And only God can do this. Only God can change a human heart. And so as we, His people, as we're walking with Christ, that's what we anticipate, that's what we experience. That over time, not instantly, but over time, the way that we see Jesus having lived His life is the way we begin to live our lives. And this is seen, of course, in the fruit of the Holy Spirit, right? The way you read the list in Galatians 5, the fruit of the Holy Spirit, and it's Jesus. It's like this is who He was. And His Spirit walking with us, alive in our lives, transforms us from the inside out. A little truth and review in case you haven't been here. Last week, actually, Marcus taught us about the importance of identity and our identity in Christ, right? Remember who you are. I saw some pictures. Some of you wrote that on your mirror with that grease pen, right? It's not a grease pen, but whatever. Remember who you are. And who are you? In Christ, you are a spirit person. You are alive in Christ. Your identity has changed. I was reflecting on this past week. It's like, it's so true. And when you begin to embrace your identity as a follower, as a disciple of Jesus, it's like, it's who I am. I am a follower of Jesus. I am a disciple of Jesus. And it's all based in who He is. And so if you forget who you are, remember who you are by remembering who Christ is. And He is the King of Kings. He is the Lord of Lords. He's the greatest teacher that ever lived. Read His word, hear His heart, see Him again, and you'll remember who you are. He is our friend. What we've been saying in the series too is that the disciples who walked with Jesus, they experienced His love primarily through His friendship. He cared for them and He cares for us. And so as you find your identity in Christ, you are a friend, a follower, a disciple of Jesus. You are a spirit person. Don't forget who you are. This really speaks to the beauty and the power of the gospel in what God has done, right? We talk about these big words, justification and sanctification. Justification can happen today. If you're looking into Jesus, you haven't quite said yes to Him, justification can happen today. Because God doesn't force you, but when a person says, yes, okay, I will accept, I will receive this free gift from God found in Jesus. What God does in saving a person, as we confess our faith in Him, who He is, as we're, repenting of a life apart from Him and all of the damage that, of course, we've experienced to us and from us, we repent of life without Jesus, we're baptized into His name for the forgiveness of those sins, to receive the gift of His Spirit. We walk, right? We set out on this journey walking with Jesus. Justification happens in a day, potentially. It can happen today, where your response to the gospel, actually God justifies you, meaning it's as if you'd never sinned. You were adopted into His family. All that's true today. And this is a change, this is an exchange that only God can do. And it's powerful. You see, we're not just blowing smoke here. We can confidently say our identity is in Christ and our identity is a spirit person. Even though we struggle in the flesh, don't we? Don't raise your hand. But we struggle in the flesh, but it's not pretend. It's not make-believe. We struggle in the flesh, yes, but we absolutely, yes, are a spirit person because God has justified us in Christ. And once that's happened now, we get to walk with Jesus. And the second word here, to be sanctified, to be made holy, to be made like Jesus, that's the rest of our lives. And it's a beautiful, powerful thing to see God do this work in us where our sin and our struggles and our failures, they're all taken care of. God's not surprised by any of the temptation and sin that you fell into this week. And He is with you now, right? Wanting to raise you up, dust you off, raise you up and say, let's walk together. Let's walk forward together. This is beautiful, isn't it? This is powerful. This is why the church worships. That's why we sing, because of what God has done for us in Christ. He has changed our lives, and he is changing our lives. And the change that he's bringing about, only he can do. And it's not just the externals. The externals of our lives will change, but he's not interested in just changing the externals. Habit management. It's not even just habits. God's not just trying to change our habits, although our habits will change. God is changing us at the core of who we are. And when you see your identity in Christ, it's who I am, right? That's when from the core out, through your habits, to the external things that we all can see in one another, that's how God changes a human heart. So we celebrate today what God has done. Today we do begin the list of fruit in Galatians 5:22, as you've expected. And in that list, if we want to read it, Paul writes there, the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against such things, Paul says there's no law. In your small groups or discipleship groups or even on your own study, just want to encourage you to memorize these 2 short verses. And maybe you already have. I have since I was a kid. But the new translation here, the NIV here, they're throwing me a curveball because I learned it. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness. Anybody? Patience, right? Where'd patience go? Oh, well, forbearance. Oh, that's a good translation, actually. But it's messing with my memory work, my memory work, So if you want to slip in patience there, well, we will forbear with that decision. And you can do that just fine. But put these the couple verses to memory, test one another, have fun with it, because these are what Paul says is the fruit of the Holy Spirit. I want you to notice, too, we will talk about them because there's 8 of them, right? 9 of them. I was testing you. And we will talk about these fruits, these qualities, these characteristics, but don't miss it. Paul says this is the fruit of the Spirit. So this list here, it's not a garden list where you get to pick and choose. I love and joy and peace, but man, goodness, self-control, no thank you, but I'll take the first 3. No. It's not a pick and choose menu buffet line, right? Paul's saying this is the fruit. This is what you see in a person. And you may be, of course, we all have low ebbs in, all of them. As we think of them, we'll talk about them as fruits, but they are the fruit of the Spirit. We will see Jesus in them, and we will grow together to become more like him. It's the nature and character and quality of Christ, and as we walk with him, they become our nature and our character and the quality of our lives. Worth pursuing, don't you agree? The first quality Paul lists is love. And love is considered the greatest of Christian virtues. And the fact that it's listed first on the list actually gives weight to that idea, that love is the greatest of all Christian virtues, is a wonderful, true statement. Some have said that in this list, which is gone now, in this list, like love is, and then the rest are like dominoes that happen as a result of love. You can actually think about all of them like that's an expression of love. To be a gentle person, expression of love. To be patient, kind, good, it's a point well taken. Love is this great Christian virtue. When we think of Jesus and all that he taught, in Matthew 22:37, when asked, the question came to Jesus, of all the Old Testament laws, which 630 some, right, they'd kind of come up with and taught in that day. Of all of those, which is the greatest? And Jesus says, the greatest commandment is this: love God with your heart, soul, and mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second one is like it: love your neighbor as yourself. So in Jesus' own teaching, he said, this is the greatest thing, to love God with all that you are, your heart, soul, mind, strength, all that you are, to love God and to love your neighbor, to love people. Love God, love people. It's kind of the driving engine of the kingdom of heaven on earth, to be people who love like that. So love is this great Christian virtue. We read it a couple weeks ago, but John 13 again, where Jesus says, a new command I give you, love one another, right? As I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this, all people will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. The night before Jesus died for our sins, he tells his disciples, this is the new command I give you, love one another. Now, loving one another wasn't a new command. He'd already said that loving God and loving other people in the Old Testament. The newness of Jesus' disciple is when he says, verse 34, love one another as I have loved you, so you must love one another. The newness was in the depth of love and the breadth of love, and Jesus is the standard. Have I loved you like Christ has loved me? Probably not yet. So there's more walking with Jesus to do. Love is this great Christian virtue that has changed the world. We don't really see it because we were born into a world that was already changed. But do some history study and learn about the world before Jesus and the lack of love, right? And how this kingdom of heaven on earth has actually changed the world. Jesus says, as I've loved you, love one another. And he says in verse 35, love is actually the identifier of our discipleship. By what? By loving one another, all people will know, everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. So God's love flows to us in Jesus and through us to one another and into a world that needs it. And it's observable. People need this love of God, and people can see it in us. Why? Because it is the fruit of walking with Jesus. As we are walking with Jesus, we will be a people characterized by this great love. If you've experienced non-love in the world, have you? If you've experienced non-love in the church, then you know how important this is. Love is not a given. As much as I want to say that people are good, and I've said it, just people in general, people on the planet, people, as much as I want to say people are good, people are often not good. People struggle with sin, don't we? And to not be loving, well, that's a common thing. In Galatians 5, the fruit of the Spirit, that list, it's not the first list. It's actually the second list that Paul makes. The first list, if you go up to verse 20, he makes a list of, when he says, the acts of the flesh are obvious. The things that we, human beings normally in our own humanity, in our own sinful flesh, the passions, desires, the pursuits of our life, those acts are obvious, and they result in, and catch the list, he says hatred, discord, jealousy, fits of rage. Anybody have a 2-year-old? I'm kidding. Fits of rage, selfish ambition, dissensions, factions. This is the first list in Galatians 5, these acts of the flesh. And love, the love of Christ, is what washes all of these away from us. We are not, because this is us. And it's all forgiven. It's all washed away through as we're baptized into Christ, we have a new identity. And love is what replaces it. And moving forward, love is what identifies us as a follower of Jesus. He has so loved us. His love is the answer to what humanity needs. And there's no close second. The love of God is what humanity needs to live a life of where the acts of our flesh are so obvious, and we know so much damage and destruction is done through the human hearts that are not following Jesus. Jesus has so loved us. We're called to love one another. It's this chief Christian disciple of Jesus characteristics. We are called to love one another as he has loved us. So imagine a marriage where a husband and wife love one another just as Christ has loved each of them. Imagine parents with children loving one another just as Christ has loved them. Imagine an employer loving his or her employees the way that Christ has loved them. Do you see how this changes the world? Imagine these relationships where the love of Christ permeates those. Imagine the love of Christ in your small group. Does it make a difference? Many of you are experiencing that. And the people that you are involved with in community and fellowship from week to week, I mean, if asked, you would say, actually, it's true. They are closer than even some of my blood relatives. How is that? Because you're the family of God. Imagine the Go team going out into our community, loving people on the streets with the love of Christ that they've received. Does it make a difference? It makes a difference. People are seen and people are heard and people are loved because they are loved by God. Love is the fruit of walking with Jesus. You walk with him for a short time or long, and you'll begin to go from being not so loving to being someone who is loving because Jesus is changing you from the inside out. This is a massive theme in 1 John. In fact, we can't read all the text in John's little letter, but it's a theme that you should look at this week. And just some of the highlights in chapter 2. Of course, he talks about following Jesus and doing his commands, and whoever claimed to follow Jesus must live as he lived. Well, Jesus was very loving. And then he echoes the words of Jesus. Dear friends, I'm not writing you a new command, but an old one, which you've had since the beginning. I'm writing you a new command. Its truth is seen in Jesus and in you because the darkness is passing. Anyone who claims to be in the light but hates a brother or sister walks in darkness. Anyone who loves their brother and sister lives in the light, and there is nothing to make them stumble. Over in chapter 3, this is the message you've heard from the beginning. We should love one another. Right? Don't be like Cain, who belonged to the evil one and murdered his brother. We need to love one another. Anyone who does not love remains in death. Anyone who hates a brother or sister is a murderer, and you know that no murderer has eternal life residing in him. Verse 16, this is how we know what love is, the very definition of love. This is how we know. Jesus Christ laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for our brothers and sisters. Into chapter 4, the classic, right? Dear friends, let us love one another, for love comes from God. Everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God. Whoever does not love does not know God, because God is love. So this theme runs throughout First John, and John has this great Hebrew mind where he repeats himself over. I mean, at least 3 times he brings it back. You can't say that you love God and hate your brother and sister. You have to love. You have to be a person who loves. Why? God is love. Whoever lives in love lives in God and God in them. This is how love is made complete among us so that we will have confidence on the day of judgment. In this world, we are like Jesus. How do we become like Jesus? Are you hearing the message these days? We become like Jesus by walking with him. He changes us over time to become more and more like him, and this includes being loving. As we experience his love for us, he changes us, and we love one another. My friends, the fruit of the Spirit, being love, does not end there. As amazing as it is to think about the love of God and our love for our brothers and our sisters, Christian love is even more peculiar than that. This peculiar kind of love, if you have it, if you're growing in it, it's a dead giveaway who you are. You love like this kind of love, this peculiar love from the words of Jesus himself, it's immediate. You're a follower of Jesus if you do this peculiar kind of love. Well, what is that? If we go all the way back to this Matthew chapter 5, Matthew 5, 6, and 7 are these three chapters. If you have a red letter Bible, all the letters are red because it's one continuous teaching from Jesus about the kingdom of heaven that he was bringing to earth. He was bringing this kingdom to earth, and he was teaching the people what this kingdom is like. And in verse 43 of chapter 5, he says, "You have heard that it was said, 'Love your neighbor and hate your enemy.' But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be children of your Father in heaven. He causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sends the rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. If you love those who love you, what reward will you get? Are not even the tax collectors doing that? And if you greet only your own people, what are you doing more than others? Do not even pagans do that?" This peculiar kind of love of Jesus is love for enemies. And listen, only God does this. Naturally, we certainly wouldn't do this naturally. We call someone an enemy because they're an enemy, right? There's conflict, there's problems. They've done things, they've hurt us, they've injured us. And Jesus says, you've heard that it was said, love your friends, but hate your enemies. I'm telling you, love your enemies. Pray for them. Pray for those who persecute you. Pray for them. Love them. What does this mean? So all those people, in your life and in the world who are living out that first list in Galatians 5, right? I mean, they have hatred, and there is discord and jealousy, fits of rage, selfish ambition coming from them, dissensions, divisions, factions. What are we as God's people to do towards those people? We love them. That person in your life that's done you wrong and hurt you so deeply, how are you supposed to treat them? Jesus loved them. I don't think I can love them. You don't know what they've done. It's true, I don't, but Jesus does. I don't know that I can do that. I don't know that I want to love them. Hear me, I understand what you're saying. More importantly, Jesus understands what you're saying. So what do we do? I don't think I can. I don't want to love them. So what do I do now? Here's my answer today. Walk with Jesus. Let's walk with Jesus. Walk with Jesus. The way that he lived will become the way that you live. And you may not be in a place, probably the minority of us are, if we're honest, that loving our enemies and praying for them is something we do every day. In fact, we struggle with that, but we walk with Jesus, and over time we become like him, who loved his enemies. Romans 5, Paul lays it out. It's like, who's going to die? It's rare that someone would die for a good person, right? I'm going to lay down my life for them. They're a great person, but I kind of treasure my life, right? And never, it's like rarely, never would anybody lay down their life for a bad person, but God demonstrates his love for us in this. While we were still sinners, while we were opposed to God, while we were his enemies, Christ died for us. That's an immense, amazing kingdom of heaven kind of love. And if you're being called to love your enemy, you need that, and so walk with Jesus. He's the only source of strength and insight and power in order to love an enemy, love someone who has done you wrong. Over time, you'll become more like him. And being fruitful in Jesus means looking to him, learning from him, loving him. And over time, he will do this good work in your life. I loved what Marcus said last week. You can't microwave fruit. I almost microwaved a banana this week just to see what would happen. It's like we have some tomato seeds. Let's put it in there and see what goes on. You can't microwave fruit. And this may be an area where it's like, this is not true in your life right now to love that person who has hurt you so badly. It's not in you now. But you don't microwave fruit. Walk with Jesus and see if it's true that over time you can become a person who reflects his love, and actually you find yourself loving people who would easily be qualified as an enemy. When you love them, right? These people, there's such hatred maybe towards you. They've caused such division and discord and rage and stuff. All that stuff has come your way, and you find yourself loving them. Guess what? They're probably still having fits of rage. They're probably still going to create discord. There's still going to be jealousy. There's still going to be all of these acts of the flesh that are so obvious. None of that may change in them, but in you find yourself loving them, even though there is such struggle and problem and hatred. And what you see by God's grace is, man, they're in a prison that we've all been in, but they're in a prison, and they're the ones that are being hurt the most. Not being able to give up that kind of hatred. So you are a spirit person now. Remember who you are. You may not have this fruit yet. And this may take a long time, but you belong to Jesus. You are a follower of Christ. You are his disciple. You needed a Savior. God gave you one in Jesus. You are saved. Walk with him and see him do what wonderful fruit in your life. Don't give up walking with Jesus today and tomorrow and the next day because you have an enemy that you just can't love. You have an enemy that maybe you're retaliating. Don't give up on walking with Jesus tomorrow and the next day because you're retaliating against an enemy that has caused you so much pain. Don't give up walking with Jesus because the only way you're going to become that person of love is to keep taking a step and walking with him. And it's slow, yes, but he is with you, and it's sustainable, and he will change you from the inside out. Don't stop walking with Jesus. Remember who he is. Remember what he has done. Remember who he has recreated you to be. And see if over time you'll be able to love that person who has hurt you so badly. We're going to have a time just to respond in prayer, and it'll be moments of silence just right where you are. And we just want to give you these moments to pray. And I want you to ask the Lord about this, Lord, are you wanting me to love when I don't want to? That's the encouragement today. Love when you don't want to. Ask Jesus about this. Do you want me to love when I don't want to? When it's humanly not normal to love? In prayer, ask Jesus about this. Is this really a thing? Is this really the fruit of walking with you? To love enemies, to pray for them? In these moments of prayer, just consider, can you love your friends and your family in moments when they hurt you? Pain has come your way from your friends, not even your enemies, your friends, your family. We have an amazing ability, don't we, to hurt one another. In that moment, can you love them then? Certainly won't be by your own strength. And maybe in prayer right now, you just need to ask the Lord for strength to love your friends and family, or to love your enemies. Even though they're not going to stop living in the flesh, ask the Lord for help in loving them. And maybe today, in prayer. You can seek God about loving him. The words of Jesus, love God with your whole heart, soul, mind, and strength. This is the greatest commandment. And maybe you're here today and you are not happy with God. You are frustrated, angry, confused. Life is not going well, maybe. You're here. Good job. But you're angry with God. God could have changed those circumstances, right? But he didn't. You're confused about it. Can you love God when you're angry with him? I don't understand. In prayer, you might say this to him. I don't understand, but I trust you. I don't understand, but I will worship you. And see if God, by his Spirit, won't meet with you. After a few moments of prayer, as we wrestle with this, we'll sing songs in response. We'll have communion together and remember what Jesus has done. But just in these moments, talk with the Lord. And if you're here today and you have something that's just like really, you can't get through it or over it, we would love to pray with you. I'll go back to the back corner right now, but you can come back and we can talk. Or even after the service, if you need prayer, we would love to pray with you in what is concerning you today. So let's approach God in prayer, right where you're at. Jesus said we can talk to him as our Father. Share with him your frustrations, your struggles. Ask him.